What a year it's been for him. With a battered and bruised car, Cooper Webster then, your 2025 champion.
Pressure locks you to the floor, waiting for an open door. The clock is ticking, make your move. Here's your signal, time to prove. Can you hear me now? 'Cause I'm shouting through the noise. Can you hear me now? It's time to make a choice. Break the chains and rush the gates. Hurry before it's too late.
The age of digital starts here. Can you hear them now? The Porsche Esports Supercup heads through to regionals as we start things off with the Americas at Sebring International Raceway here in the Panhandle of America in Florida. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are watching this around the world. My name's Jake Sperry. That is Joe Peak alongside with me for today's action. Joe, this is one very, very special qualifying series to get to the Porsche Esports Super Cup, especially when you put together that it's 4 nation groups that are trying to get their 8 best in to say they are on top.
Exactly. We think of this almost like a climb to a mountaintop, and there's going to be fewer and fewer holds, which means the competition is going to get fiercer and fiercer as they get to each rung. So this is the next step up. It's going to tighten, and I think we're going to see some really impressive racing out there.
And that impressive racing is to get yourself up to the top level. Let's take a look at how these drivers are going to get there.
Welcome to the Porsche Esports Super Cup, the virtual one-make series with some of the fastest drivers in the world, where every lap matters and every mistake can end your season. With all drivers in the same car, tackling the same conditions, an exciting format, a brilliant prize, and the chance to make the jump from the virtual track to the real one for a full season. There are 2 ways in: official Porsche National Championships and Global Open Qualifiers, where 4 race weeks will decide who rises, with the fastest drivers advancing. The Regional Championship will be comprised of races across 4 regions. Drivers go head-to-head across multiple rounds, but only the fastest move on. Drivers will compete across 5 full race weekends, but at the end, only one driver can claim the title of World Champion, along with the cash prize. From this pool of drivers, a select few will be chosen for the next stage. The talent shootout is not just another test, it is a chance to prove you belong in real-world racing. Here, every corner counts, every decision is judged, and only the driver with the speed, composure, and potential to step into a real race car will stand out. Is that you?
Well, we've got some pretty amazing racing that is about to set itself apart compared to everybody else. And so what better way, Joe, to talk about this than the 20 races that we have coming up over 4 regions over 10 weeks.
Yep, each gets 5, and you can see scheduled it to sort of resemble kind of the area that each region would be racing in. Here in the Americas, we're going to be starting off with Sebring. We head down south to Mexico City, head back up north to Watkins Glen. Of course, can't forget one of the newest ones on iRacing, Miami International Autodrome, and then winding up at a crowd favorite, Interlagos. And stick around, you can see we've got more coming up with the Middle East and Africa region a little bit later this afternoon.
Yeah, of course, Fuji Speedway, Suzuka, Adelaide, Okayama, and Phillip Island as far as that now sets. Now, here is your Loctite race analysis. Each race 30 minutes in length. It is a standing start, which is going to now push everybody to go very aggressive into that turn 1 you see on your screen. There are no planned pit stops, so it's an out-and-out sprint. And Joe, top 8 move on, which means in a field of 32, 3/4 of this field are getting gutted by the wayside.
Like I was saying, it's going to get narrow and narrow. The competition is going to continue to get harder each and every time you move up. This isn't even the top step that they're at right now. So just being in those top 8 is going to be an accomplishment in itself. And then you'll have to do more work from there. However, I will say that they have picked out quite a selection, especially for the first race of the season on this one.
They really have done. Now is a good time to take you to your TDK track analysis. Sebring, of course, a circuit eternal when it opened back on my birthday 1950, many a moon ago. It is one where you set down counterclockwise in terms of how you work around this circuit. 17 turns as it goes. It hosts the 12 Hours of Sebring, so very popular, Joe, and critically one of the few circuits in the world that mixes asphalt and concrete.
And known for its bumpiness. That's going to be the key factor here today, managing the car over those bumps. It's highly technical as well, with quite a few lower speed and high speed corners. So you need a car that's kind of good all around at a track like this. The big thing is you hopefully have done plenty of laps here, and the good news is our drivers both in the North America's Carrera Cup as well as the Open qualifiers have both raced at this tracking competition already.
They have, and it's a chance for them to get back in the saddle as we talk a few storylines that we are expecting to see over the course of racing action today. It's Super Cup regulars versus new faces competing in the ladder, and I'm looking through some of the names. There are some drivers here who have maybe only a year and a half's worth of experience in sim out there running, compared to some, like let's say Mitchell de Jong, for example, who's got over 15 years worth of sim racing experience.
Yeah, this is what I love about this new format that Porsche has introduced. It kind of shakes things up. It gives drivers opportunities to step into the limelight a bit. But this is where we'll see, will experience count for more, or will drivers really be able to show the speed that they have that hasn't really been highlighted in the past? I think this is going to be a lot of questions answered through this new kind of knockout style format that they have.
Yeah, and so with that format, it's how you got here what we've got to talk about, whether you have been safe or sorry in terms of that effort, because both you and I, Joe, were on the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America shows that went on, and 3 very fantastic drivers qualified themselves from there. You had Mitchell de Jong, you had Xander Reed and Sean Campbell. Now, because they haven't had to go through global open qualifiers, are they ready for the challenge in front of them with the drivers they now have to compete against?
Yeah, we have to remember that Carrera Cup North America was limited to North American drivers, so a slightly smaller pool than what we see here. Now, a very talented pool, we must say, but we have seen a ton of Brazilians join in as they were not able to compete in that Carrera Cup North America. And Brazil has a huge motorsports history. I have a feeling there are going to be some real ringers that are coming in for the Americas regional races.
Yeah, so that's going to be really, really cool. It is, of course, our going to be opportunity as we go. So question is, are we going to be seeing double vision? We've got Felipe and Flavio Dantas, who are both here. So is this going to be a case of brotherly love or brotherly rivalry? To put it into context of some very famous Brazilian twins out there, it's like Fabio and Rafael from Manchester United back in the day.
And I will say that both of them have said that each other is essentially their best friend. So I think things will remain mostly cordial out there.
Yeah, so that is going to be awesome as far as we go. But we're going to take ourselves a look at your pole lap here, which is on board with Xander Reed, who has got it done. Hometown boy from Placida, Florida, 201.334, working into turn number 1, getting as close to that inside wall as you dare, moving off of the concrete onto the asphalt through this small flick of turn 2. Now you've got 3, 4 and 5 that immediately follow, and you're looking to try and carry as much speed here to open up the arc, Joe, of turn 5 that sends you careering down to the hotel hairpin at turn 7.
This is one of the spots that is most popular for overtakes, one of the heaviest braking zones on the lap. So you need that good exit out of turn 5. Only thing is, it really tightens up. Watch, it's not a straight exit. It's going to veer all the way right and a little bit left and then right again. And with that, you'll often see drivers get shoved off the track, not necessarily intentionally, just because it gets so narrow on the exit line. Another good spot here into Cunningham. You will see some overtakes into here, but you don't want to be side by side for too long. It heads into Collier, one of the narrowest parts, Jake.
Yeah, because you're running the old runways basically around this circuit. So this would have been the access that the planes would have gone on. You turn through the Bishop's Bend, the tower turn, onto the Flying Fortress Straight. And now that gives you that great opportunity to say, right, I've got to get the tanks out open for Jean de Bienne, named after Olivier Jean de Bienne, the Belgian driver from the 1950s. Flick through the left, the right. Now you're into Le Mans corner here. Right-hander, 90 degrees, open it up. Almond Straight immediately gets yourself set up. A chance to breathe, but when it does get a little bit into the twilight zone, there's a reason why they call this Sunset Bend, because you get the sun right in your eyes. We just lose the images then as we go on forward then, but it will mean that we are into racing trim, the corner of 1004 lines there. Zander Reed in control in qualifying ahead of Elvis Rankin, with Gabriel Moretto and Hadi Noah Mamasi then in 4th position. It's Mitchell de Jong who will line this one up 5th, with Gustavo Ariel for Verstappen Sim Racing in 6th position. Sean Campbell then for Grid and Go, the second of them in 7th, with the Capivara car of Francisco Camillo then rounding out your top 8. Dalton Zavadil then sees Fidel Moreira with Rodrigo Abreu and Miguel Costa housing row 6, with Igor de Oliveira Rodriguez and Dino Felipe on row 7. It is then Thibaut Courtois Esports' Augustin Tolashi and Eric Goldner that takes you to 16 out there on the grid. You look down, you see the likes of Louis Shermer 17th, Jackson Rosenda in 18th position, Victor Veloso and Felipe Dantas there in 20th. His brother is 22nd, directly behind him on the grid, split by Slan Santos, with Felipe Giuliato there in 23rd and Ralph Benitez there for Veneziano in 24th place. Noah Wing and Leandro Lanzendorf then have row 13, with Neto Nascimento in 27th, Bruno De Carmo 28th, and then it's William Augustine, Daniel Molina, Esteban Adriano and Achilles Yannissis making up the 32 that get themselves ready for action. Joe, I took one look at the track temperature here. It's a scorching 54 and it's cooler than practice.
The only thing that benefits them is that it is a 30-minute race. It's going to be relatively short. Even in those 30 minutes, though, they will have to manage those tires a little bit, Jake.
They absolutely will. If you want to learn more here about the Porsche Esports Supercup, you can scan the QR code that is on your screen right now to get you all of the up-to-date information that is needed here, and that is going to be absolutely huge. Let's get ourselves then into position. We've got half an hour to decide who takes the opening salvo here in the Porsche Esports Supercup Regionals here for the Americans. Lovely start by the Coanda boys, 1 and 2, Reed and Rankin getting themselves a lovely launch. Gabriel Moretto immediately having to lean. Hadi Noah Mamasi having a look in towards turn number 1. They go for the first time, and sweeping around the outside as well is Mitchell de Jong, looking to get a good run as well to say this season is off and started brilliantly. No real worries. Then 1 and 2, Reed, Rankin, and then Moretto there for Blue Mercure in 3rd. The fight still continues on here in 4th.
Rankin was ultra aggressive on that start. Went all the way down the inside as we got a car spinning immediately. And that looks like that is Mamasi, who unfortunately found himself off at turn 5.
A big spin, Mitchell de Jong then turning across the nose. The question being, was he driving a little bit too aggressive to get that to be the place? Or was that just a case of wrong place, wrong time, lap 1 nerves starting to find themselves then? Very, very important to note. Single file as they work now through Fangio and over to Cunningham Corner. Then this fast right-hander, you slow it down to about 95 kilometers an hour before getting it back up on the speed through Collier, which I think is even tougher then to follow on immediately afterwards. And look at what that has done for the front 3. It's given them the gap that they needed after the contact. Gustavo Ariel and Sean Campbell suddenly realised, oh great, 3 spaces and troubles as well for Camillo.
Suddenly falling down the order on the timing screen. Not sure what happened to him. Moreto's going to be taking notes from that start. I was talking about Rankin going aggressive. He was the one that he covered off, pushed him all the way down to the concrete barrier. So he's going to be saying, okay, if this is how we're going to race, there's going to be no quarter given for these 5 rounds.
Absolutely not. You know that there's only a limited number of spaces. Look at that in the background, a shot there. 2 wides and 3 wides, and they're all going across trying to cover everyone. There's a 4 wide back here. Oh my goodness, there's a big accident. Giuliotto is here, caught up in it. Veloso there, Slan Santos as well. And also, you talk about many who think about what you've got to do on a straight. Everyone was trying to catch everybody's draft, Joe.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is just not a wide enough section to try something like that, especially on the entry in. Kind of disappointing in the first lap of the first race of the season. Definitely needs to be some discretion to be had for the remainder of this. With so few races, you can't afford bad results.
You absolutely can't. This is a championship that is going to be built on consistency, and especially when you only have 5 races, you've only got 2.5 hours to prove yourself. You are going to be looking around and going, well, if I take myself out of contention in the opening 5 minutes of one race, I make my job exponentially harder to try and qualify into top 8 Reed, Rankin, Moreto, Ariel, a change for 8th and 9th position on the tower. There's some side-by-side back there at this moment, but it's brilliant here. Coanda having what they want, a 1-2 with 2 very quick drivers, Xander Reed and Elvis Rankin, who has had real-time racing in his history out there, won a championship here in iRacing to have himself a chance to go and win a championship over in Skip Barber's.
Sounds like we've got a replay of one of those opening incidents here pulled up. Let's see what happens coming through turn 5. Things can get a little bit tricky to try and go through here with multiple cars, but almost looks like he just did not realize there was a car just poking his nose around the outside. Needed to leave a tiny bit more space. And then, of course, our little 4 and 5 wide moment. Unfortunately, in the sim, the automatic spotter only tells you when you're 3 wide. It doesn't have anything bigger than that. So could have been a case where the drivers just simply did not know there were that many cars on either side.
And you've got to be so much ingrained into where you are, ahead on a swivel. That's why it's important to use the black box relative that you've got that says these are how many cars that are around you at 0.00 seconds, basically. And that will tell you how much 2 wide, 3 wide, 4 wide you potentially have. Oh, big issue in the back. That's a massive shunt up then through the final corner of Sunset Bend. Look at that. It's one of the Capybara cars, I think it was there, that's found itself into a huge amount of trouble there. And what a disaster that one will now prove to be. Dropping down, it's Igor de Oliveira Rodriguez.
So another one bites the dust. This track obviously proving pretty darn tough. We've seen a number of mistakes here early on, but you talked about those Coanda cars up front. This is looking very familiar. We saw this a lot in the Carrera Cup races earlier on this year. The only difference, though, Jake, is it was De Jong that was usually up in these top 2.
Keep an eye out here as we're going to take a little look then on this replay at Augustin Tolashi here in the Thibaut Courtois Esports machine. He's on the outside. He gets a tag through the middle, so he's got to fight now through the second part. He gets the wall. Oh, and that is so unfortunate for Igor there. He turns around, looks at it, bystander.
Sometimes it's just wrong place, wrong time. Yeah, I don't think he did too much wrong in that situation. Maybe could have backed out a little bit, but he probably was not expecting that. Talking about those Carrera Cup races, the other thing to note are 3 that advanced through from there are in the top 6 currently and started in the top 7. So I'd say they're holding their own.
I think they're doing more than that. I think they're doing a really, really clever job of saying that this is going to be a race where they want to show what they're all about. Tolashi here trying to get in and busy with Rodrigo Abreu for placement. This is going to be to move up to 11th. And look at this, that's super aggressive behind the bridge there from Jackson Rosenda. He looks to just move across, give himself the line. I'm not shocked there to see Rodrigo Abreu just lift and let everybody go and have it. Goldner there, Rosenda now side by side as one car's going to peel miles out wide. I think the Brow is serving a slowdown penalty, potentially by the looks of things, or has some very, very important damage, which might be pedal related by the looks of things. He can't get that going in a straight line. He's going to pull it over and retire the car.
Oh, still stand side by side here for this position. This is for 11th. Torlashi's got the inside, but he's just a little bit behind. Question is, can he make this stick? Still, no one's giving way. Look at this. And finally, it looks like Jackson is going to have to give up the ghost as Augustine claims that 11th position. That was great respect between the pair of them.
Look, they gave each other racing room there, and that was a battle of the Sudamericana going out there. Argentina versus Brazil. They hit the brakes for the hotel hairpin here at turn 7. Goldner watching on. So too, Leandro Lanzendorf, who started 26th, Joe, and he's up to 14th, a gain of 12.
A couple of drivers managing to do that. Lanzendorf and Carmo both having gained those 12 positions, which is mighty impressive in a field like this. Of course, some of the drama did help them a little bit as we're watching Goldner a little bit farther down from the top in 13th. So mid-pack battles happening here. If he has the speed to get by Resenda and Torlashi with their fighting, he might want to do that, because all of their side-by-side racing has cost them 2 seconds up to the next car. They're losing ground.
Yeah, they are starting to drop that ground, and they know just how much work that they are having to do here just to give themselves any form of run out there. And with it being a half-an-hour race, you lose in the first 10 minutes to slipstream. You're going to have to work really hard to go and get it back. Sean Campbell then on the back of Gustavo Ariel. And Sean Campbell, I think, is a wonderful enigma of sim racing. The way he conducts his racing, he goes about it. I think he looks at things and has insight in things that a lot of drivers don't even begin to think about.
And I like how versatile he is. I know him very well from racing in some of the vintage series and official racing here on iRacing. So him to come over to the more modern car certainly is fantastic to see him adapt well to it, which is the other thing we need to point out. This is the first time that the Porsche Esports Supercup has used the new 992.2 car that has been racing for the first time in real-world competition here.
Yeah, and that really does tell you all you need to know, that this is a new car, it's a new opportunity, and new drivers might have the ability to get up to the top. Gustavo Ariel, possibly the greatest sim racer in Brazil, with the exception of Hugo Luis Calmon, maybe, for example, as far as it goes. He has been absolutely lights out over the course of his career, but he's not the leading Brazilian today. That's Gabriel Moreto, who is in front of him, and now here comes a look to Cunningham Corner. This is Miguel Costa, then up against Dalton Zavadil, and Zavadil then, for fiercely forward, can't find a way by the number 26 just yet, but they're looking around. If you said 7th or 8th place on the season opener, I'd absolutely take that, because you're on the right side of the bubble for top 8 positions after the season opener.
One thing I've found from my experience calling races at this track, especially with this car, is that it is surprisingly difficult to try to make passes happen. Now, some of that is down to the level of competition that we're at. There is very few opportunities to try and get a mistake out of your rival. Sounds like we may have had another pass somewhere else, though, in the meantime.
So this will be Costa versus Zavadil, and this is why Dalton Zavadil has now lost the place and fallen back to 8th rather than being in 7th. Hotel Hairpin now over to the left-hand side, trying to get in the mirrors deep, and is this just going to be a send from the heavens? Wow. Oh, yes, it is. That's from a mile back and got it slowed up on the exit. Joe, you know, you see a move like that, you normally expect him to go sailing on to the next county.
Yeah, and like I was just saying, you don't usually find margins like that. Everybody's so at the limit at this level of sim racing. So that is incredible that he was able to come from that far behind and make it stick. But then you also have to wonder, we talked about those track conditions. Are drivers maybe managing the tires? Is that why we're seeing a few of them maybe give up those positions, just thinking, I need to hold on to them until a little bit later in this race?
Yeah, and this is a big group here. Wing holding back Sherma, Nascimento, and Ralph Benitez in there. Nascimento in the group, he's a big old sim racing fan. He's a big football fan. He loves his club Flamengo. This is Ralph Benitez, though, who sits himself in the black, the yellow, and the green, and looks to try and get a lot of drive here off of the exit. You can see just how strong the force feedback is on his steering wheel, how he needs to feel the lumps and bumps around here, and you need to be very, very strong in the upper body and the arms to work with that much force feedback.
Oh, big correction, though, coming through Cunningham. Thankfully, he caught it, but look at how much that cost him. Just that one little mistake, and now it's suddenly gone from a single car length to maybe being about 4 or 5 car lengths behind.
Yeah, he drops the time. He realises, look, I'm going to have to get up there, but they are fighting side by side. It is going to be Sherma and Nascimento. Nascimento to the inside now here into Jean de Bien, and that is going to get the pass done on Louis Sherma, who will lose the place. That suddenly bunches the group back up for the all-important drafting straight here of Ullman.
Benitez is the one that's sitting behind them currently in the Brazilian colors on his car. This is Neto that we are watching, and he's just keeping an eye on those mirrors, seeing if anybody's going to make a dive, because sometimes drivers can get aggressive, but thankfully for his sake, they'll stay single file. Look at the variety of lines. You talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. There's so many ways that you can approach that corner, and each one has its advantages and disadvantages. For Benitez, he's found the advantage off the turn. He's got the momentum, but not the track position, as he's going to be around the outside. Slight little bit of contact between himself and Shermer, and he does it the long way around.
The road hard travelled, a look back for the inside then at turn 3 isn't going to get the job done then for Sherma. So lovely stuff there. It's Ralph Benitez getting the pass done the long way around turn 1. I'll tell you what, it takes commitment to go and make a move all around the outside, because you're hoping that the car on the inside doesn't just understeer out. Again, having to throw a defence into turn 7 at the hotel hairpin, manages so. That brings the grid and go-kart of Hadi Mamasi back to play, and Hadi here is trying to drive this one back after that lap 1 spin, has almost found his way back to the top 20, Joe.
He was one of the quickest in the practice session, so we know that the speed is there and that qualifying was no fluke. But even with all the time that he's had these last about 15 minutes, he's only been able to make his way up, not even the top 2/3 of the field. So this is going to be a hard row to hoe.
12th on the top of your screen, 19th down on the bottom then. Jackson Rosenda looking behind it, Eric Goldner and Leandro Lazendorf. You turn around and say, right, what does the 19th place battle have to offer? It's still Sherma versus Mimasi, as far as they now look to bounce over the curves here and try and work through over onto the Ullman straight. And one of the keys we've been seeing from this 992.2 is how much it responds to the bounces of the circuits, Joe.
It's a very compliant car, and drivers seem to really love being able to wield it so easily, as Mamasi gets one more, and that's up to 20th now. And there you can see the many positions gained. DeCarmo now up 13. We had mentioned he was up 12 before.
Yeah, Bruno DeCarmo is having a very, very good run in the number 24, and he'll be very happy. There he is in the purple, in the middle of shot. A driver in front of him up 12, Leandro Lanzendorf there. Goldner then in front, and Rosenda as they try and keep Tolashi in range, but they dropped half a second to Augustin Tolashi on that last lap. So this group is slowly forming into the mid-202s.
Taking a look at that purple number 24. Very easy to pick out, thankfully, but loves his G923, as you can tell by his team name, and has used it to great effect up to this point. There's a lot of cars in front of him. If he can get up to Lazendorf, Goldner, Rosenda, all those guys, and he's got great opportunities to get even more positions.
Any more that he can find is just going to be news to his ears, as he realises a just outside of the top 10 performance here might be really useful in terms of trying to get the long form result out of it. Back then to Campbell and to Ariel here in 4th and 5th positions right now, and there's maybe going to be a sense here with the front groups right now, Joe, that they might not be as aggressive as what we might see a little bit further back in the pack, because they're in a money position of a top 8. They know that they can bank some really important points early on, so why would they try and jeopardize that?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that you do have to consider in this, is that you just have to be in the advancing group. And I wonder if maybe that is what we're seeing Mitchell de Jong do, because remember, again, touching back into those Carrera Cup races, 5 out of 6 races won by this guy. So we know he can be fast, but maybe he just isn't feeling the urgency to try and push things at the moment. That's Sean Campbell directly in front of him in the yellow and purple machine, and then Gustavo Ariel is the one experiencing the pressure from that number 3 car that we can just see up the road.
Yeah, they are very much looking around, and Mitchell de Jong right now, I think, is just going to be trying to do everything he can. He's got a lovely Porsche steering wheel, by the way, up on the back of his wall there. That is absolutely brilliant to see, but he's just trying to keep himself calm. He knows he's in this leading train of 6 at this point in time. He's trying to keep Miguel Costa just behind, so he doesn't have to worry too much about what he's capable of doing, and he just knows, so long as I'm on the back of Sean Campbell, I know I'm in a pretty good spot, because already we are ticking over 5/8 of this race being done, down to just 12.5 minutes there or thereabouts. Where's this race gone?
30 minutes goes by very, very quickly, especially when you consider we're looking at plus 2-minute lap times around here. A little bit slower than probably what we could have gotten with all the hot temperatures. So you don't have too many times to circulate around this place, which means fewer opportunities to overtake as well. If you think you've got the speed, you got to use it quickly.
Yeah, you can't just sit on it. It's not a case of, you know, because you are the quickest, or you have the potential to be the quickest, you can naturally just go and use it whenever you want. You have to use it at the right times, and if you don't use it quick enough, then old Father Time's going to knock on the door and say, sorry, your race is run. And so that's going to be what I think Mitchell de Jong maybe thinks about. Into the corner of 1004 line, Sunset Bend, looking to get that working. We go back to Noah Wing, now in this 17th position, looking at Flavio Dantas for 15th, so 16th to 15th, then it goes actually now down to 17th, I'll correct myself there. So Noah Wing seeing that in front, trying to get that going. There's some lovely stars and stripes there on the front of the car.
Dantas is the higher of the 2 twins currently, unfortunately. Felipe still down in 26th since he was involved in that incident a little bit earlier on down back straightaway on lap 1. Wing's not able to get the run he needs. You can see them. They can kick up that dirt a little bit on the exit and get away with it. Sometimes you do have to be careful because the car can spin out from it, but I think just flirting with it a bit is not going to harm them. This is, again, where he needs to focus. And again, you have that little bit of dirt to the outside. That time, though, you have to watch out because that curb is very tall and it can sometimes eat up some of your grip.
It absolutely can. Flavio Dantas knows that he's grown up around go-kart tracks ever since he was a little kid, and very much part of his father's go-kart team called Sabia Racing since 1994. So he understands what is there. He's done so much work. He moved to Australia, became a chef, came back and decided, look, I want to be closer to my twin brother out there and say, look, we are going to work together and do what we can. So he knows how to cook out there in the kitchen. The question is, can he go and cook out there on circuit?
Right now, not doing too shabby, but like we were talking about earlier, he's got to be a lot more spots up to be in those top 8. Still could bring home some solid points halfway up the field. Certain drivers will be stronger at different tracks as well, and if you're not good with very bumpy circuits, this one will not suit you.
No, this is one which is not for the faint of heart, and it's all about holding down your ground as we enter the final 10 minutes. And look at that, brother and brother. It looks like they're in opposite rooms as well there, by the way that it sort of sets up with the flooring. So I think they're going to be looking at this going, okay, what am I capable of doing? And they even breathe with anticipation and nervousness the same.
I'm sure Felipe is going to be a bit disappointed with this one. Didn't see very closely whether or not he had any blame on that big four-wide incident, but he'll always go back and review and try to see if he can figure something out. Meanwhile, Flavio still has Noah Wing close behind him, being a bit of a threat. Now we're jumping back to Felipe. He's actually working on Esteban Adriano, who for 25th right now, and still has, it looks like, Augustine and Giannisis behind him.
Yeah, Achilles Giannisis is there and trying to get through. These are drivers that have been at the back of the pack, 4 retirees from this race: Francisco Camilo, Slan Santos, Igor de Oliveira Rodriguez, and Rodrigo Abrao. Those 4 who have not found themselves with the result that they want. Here is the look for Felipe Dantas to the inside of Esteban Adriano. The number 32 machine can't do much about that. That is a nice and astute pass down at the hotel hairpin with absolutely no arguments given. That is what we call a pure racing pass, Joe.
Adriano's close, though. Thought maybe he'd kind of show his nose. There he finally goes, but that was a half-hearted move. I don't think he seriously thought he was going to get back there. I feel like if you are Esteban, it's probably a case of, you know, it's not worth pulling a risky defense this late in the race for a position that's not going to offer too many points. Plus, we're under threat from 2 other drivers behind. Meanwhile, we got a nice little battle kind of closing in here for 12th. Resende still has Goldner and Lazendorf remaining in his mirrors.
Lanzendorf wants to jump these 2. Eric Goldner has been stuck in the middle all race long. Jackson Resenda has used the aggression factor to gain his +6, and he's not been shying away from how elbows out he's needed to be as a racer here in this one, and I think he's proving it. Woo! How close do you want to be over that final section? I remember a time where we crossed that over in iRacing.
I don't want to be that close at all. It's just a little bit tight there. Jackson did a good job keeping the speed up, I must say. As look at this. We had missed how close things got for Gustavo Ariel. It looks like Campbell is suddenly right on top of him, and De Jong as well. So 4th place very much up for grabs. I'm keeping an eye on that top screen to see if there's a move down into the hairpin, and it gets very close for De Jong. In fact, he almost gets into the back of the 3 car.
Yeah, he was late on turning because he was scared of running up the back of Sean Campbell there. That will cost him about 0.2 of a second. Nothing that he can't gather back up over the next few corners, but it's clear that Sean Campbell is riding very, very close to the back of Gustavo Ariel here with 6.5 minutes to go. And if you try and ride that close out there, let's say on the freeway or the motorway or wherever you are, you're basically your longest and fastest road out there in your country, quite often than not, you are going to run up the back of the car in front. These drivers here, these sim racers, are proving of just how close they can run to the cars in front of them.
And speaking of trying to run close, if I'm on the radio with the number 26, Miguel Costa, I am urging him to get right up there, because if there seems like there is a battle imminent, and as soon as they start fighting, that's going to open doors, and Miguel is going to try and pick their pocket. That's going to be his best opportunity.
So, if he wants to play spoiler, he's going to have to get up there with Miguel Costa and then hope that chaos ensues in front. But it has been very cordial from this group, and understandably so from this level. Look how tight and shallow the line is through Sunset Bend there for Gustavo Ariel. Uses all of the circuit off of the exit. Sean Campbell hoping to find a way through. They've lost the driver Gabriel Moretto to the tune of 1.3 seconds. They're getting a tiny bit of slipstream out there, but from last season to the updates to the car, Joe, that ability to feel the slipstream feels a little bit more reduced.
Exactly. That's just what iRacing has done on these cars. And unfortunately, it doesn't make the passing any easier. But if you're the leading car, you are relieved, because definitely before there were some times where there was almost games being played on who wanted to lead this race. Now it is a lot more straightforward, and Gustavo just has to withstand all that he's experiencing here to hold on to this spot. So far, so good, but he has to last a couple more laps to claim a 4th.
He definitely wants that 4th place. He knows how important it is to start the season properly, and every point is going to matter. And they don't ask you how you got into the Porsche Esports Supercup. They just ask you, are you in the Porsche Esports Supercup? So 4th would be a very good start to the day for Gustavo Ariel. So Sean Campbell, Mitchell de Jong, Miguel Costa, those four all together. But there's your top two, Reed and Rankin. And what we saw in the likes then of Porsche Esports Carrera Cup North America, Joe, was that Coanda drivers like to have it form until the final couple laps. It seems to me that Elvis Rankin is slowly turning up the talk to say, look, I want phases to 11 at the time where I can go for a race win.
Well, and Xander's going to be real tired of playing second fiddle, so I don't think he's going to play nice with Elvis Rankin if he tries to make a move. I don't think he's going to do anything untoward, but he's probably going to be aggressive, wanting to be back on that top spot, getting victories.
Yeah, Xander Reed often racing in a backwards cap, which means that he knows it's about to go down, and he will understand that he wants absolutely every single point he can get his hands on. He knows how important it is to build a platform correctly. He's on his home his home state at the moment, and that is not a line that you want to take if you're Elvis Rankin, just overshooting it slightly, going into the grass and the dirt where the grass has been scrubbed off there, and it's cost him the tune of about a tenth and a half. Now, it's taken him about 10 minutes to get that tenth of a half back, and so he doesn't have 10 minutes anymore. He's got 2 laps.
Exactly, and I kind of wonder if he's starting to experience the dirty air that comes with being the car behind. This isn't like open wheelers where it's going to be hugely dramatic, but you do get a bit of it. And again, at these levels, tiny little margins matter. That means you're taking a bit more out of the tires when you're riding that close behind for a long time. So that could explain why he went wide through turn 1.
So if he's trying to get even more out of it, he knows he's got to do everything in his power to keep it on terra firma. These 4 then line themselves up astern, and Ariel is being pushed here to go quicker and quicker by Sean Campbell, to the fact that he's closing back into Gabriel Moretto.
Ooh, interesting note on that one, yeah. So could have a podium, but that's, I think, a real long shot unless the 6 makes a mistake. He's going to have to be caught up by huge margins to lose that spot, especially since Ariel will probably be bringing along some friends with him and can't exactly make an ill-fated move. Meanwhile, jumping backwards towards farther back, I think this is Nascimento versus Mimasi, who's managed to get up to 19th, but only, I think, 18th is on the cards for him from here. Realistically, he's not going to be catching the next car up.
Well, I still think it's a great recovery in a field of this quality for Hadi Noah Mimasi, part of that major stable of gridandgo.com cars, as the last lap is now taken for Xander Reed here at the opener at Sebring International Raceway for the Americas region. This is where he has to fight with Elvis Rankin, and he knows that Elvis is going to do what he can to stay close. Gap over the line was 0.467, as behind that, Ariel here in 4th place still has Sean Campbell there and close, and every time Gustavo Ariel takes a corner, he takes a bucket load of curb with him, and he is trying to take the path of least resistance every single time, slowly stretching the gap now to Mitchell de Jong and Miguel Costa, who watch on nervously at this, and they hit the brakes. Oh, that's late. They're going through for Miguel Costa. He just about holds himself steady and realizes, okay, that's fine for the moment, but I will be looking at the bigger picture here in this race. I will be looking at, I've got to maintain my points. I don't want to be getting into contact. I don't want to be dropping points potentially by losing places if I damage my front. So they've managed it well, out of Cunningham, through Collier, over to the tower corner now, which is the next setup for the Flying Fortress Straight for Bishop's Bend, then for Jean de Bien that comes along next, and Gustavo Ariel, I don't think he's 100% safe at the moment. I think there is a chance here for Sean Campbell to give himself what he can. Still 4/10 at the front, but I think Sean Campbell's got something to offer here, and it might be a move at Sunset Bend if he wants to uncork it, if he wants to go and get this place, if he wants to say, I know how to get this past. But that is a lovely chicane section there for Gustavo Ariel. We head back up to your leaders, backwards cap and all. Xander Reed on his home state is going to run around Sunset Bend, and he will say with his teammate Elvis Rankin in tow, I am the first here in your Porsche Esports Supercup Regionals. He takes an all-important race win, a critical race win in his regard, and a moment that is a truly epic performance out there. The rest of the cars, Joe, making their way across.
And 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th that we were talking about were within 1 second as they crossed the line. It was that close. I love seeing the smile on Xander Reed's face after that. You could tell that one was big for him.
It was a huge responsibility as the last few cars look to make their way across the line. This then for Xander Reed is his Mobile One winning moment. Absolutely incredible stuff. And that was just a mastery of controlling a race from the front of the field. It's every sim racer's dream to have a race as tactically flawless as it was there for Xander Reed, Joe.
I can't heap enough praise on the race that he ran. Just hitting his marks, not letting the pressure from Elvis get to him all race long. Elvis actually pushing him, a little bit of fun jest there around the end of the lap. And also, we got to give credit to Gabriel Moretto. A quiet but great 3rd place, a podium finish to kick things off. Wasn't anything flashy, but let's see how our move of the race went.
Yeah, this is your Trilux move of the race, and it's right off of the get-go then, and everybody was looking to try and set it up. He had no worries at all about the get-go of this start. Just got a lovely launch off into turn 1, saw the side-by-side behind by the likes then of Moretto and Rankin, who couldn't quite get it into line, and from the point there that he got out of turn 2 and into turn 3, he wasn't challenged out there in the race. All the drama came behind, and the contact between De Jong and Mamasi basically set up the run for the race, Joe, on, right, we've got a gap, let's go play.
And that really drives home how important that defensive move was for Elvis, because he wound up 3 seconds ahead, as we can see on our results over the number 6.
Xander Reed then in 30 minutes and 32 seconds, a 4:10 victory over Elvis Rankin, his teammate, with Gabriel Moretto for Blue Mercure Esports. It's still their first year of sim racing, Blue Mercure, by the way. They're in 3rd, with Gustavo Ariel 4th and Sean Campbell in 5th. Mitchell de Jong leads home Miguel Costa. Dalton Zavadil gets 8th for Fisley Forward, with Fidel Moreira on the Hardline Racing Team 9th, and Dino Filippa rounding out your top 10 on a very astute drive. Augustine Tolashi is then 11th ahead of Jackson Rosenda, with Eric Goldner and Leandro Lazendorf there in 14th place. Bruno De Carmo and Flavio Dantas are 15th and 16th ahead of Noah Wing, Neto Nascimento, Ralph Benitez, and Hedy Noah Mamasi, who was involved in that spin, 25 seconds splitting your top 20, with Luis Sherma there, Felipe Julianto, you got Victor Veloso, Daniel Molina there representing Bolivia in 24th, Felipe Dantas then ahead of Esteban Adriano, then you've got Achilles Yannisis there in 27th, William Augustine, Rodrigo Abrao, though, your first of the retirees, having to pull over the car to left-hand side. Igor de Oliveira Rodriguez was ultimately an innocent bystander in an incident with Tolashi, and then Slan Santos caught out at Sunset Bend on lap 1, as well as with Francisco Camillo in the number 7 car. So a lot that has had to try and sort itself into position. We have been keeping such a close eye on what this field can do, because they have been absolutely as strong as anything out there. And Joe, I am so looking forward to hearing what these drivers have to say, and I think you'll get the chance to now with Xander Reed.
Exactly, Xander, it's been a long time coming. Is this win almost a feeling of relief for you?
Yeah, it's always good to start the season off with a win and a pole. It's kind of the best way to have it go. Can't thank everyone at Command Esports enough for all the work they put in. It obviously showed with our pace there.
We watched Elvis follow closely to you for pretty much the entire race. Got a little bit nervously near you towards the end. Did you ever feel any nerves about how close he was getting?
Not really. I mean, if he was able to get up and try and make a move, I have full confidence that we would have survived. So there's never any worry racing with Elvis. He's pretty clean.
Is this win something of a statement for you, especially after you kind of played, as I described it, second fiddle in the Carrera Cup? Do you feel like you've really asserted yourself with this one?
Yeah, it definitely feels good to get some redemption around here, and just want to keep the momentum going for the coming weeks.
Oh, well, congratulations on starting off with a lights to flag victory, and wish you best of luck over in Mexico.
Thanks, guys.
Sounds
Sensation.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, sounds like we've got Bruno DeCarmo in here next. Bruno, my goodness, we talked about how hard it is to make up positions in this series at this level, and somehow you gained 13. How did you do that?
I'm here.
Not sure if we have... Bruno, do you have a copy? We might not have Bruno with us quite yet. We'll try and see if we can get that. Oh, now we got you. Bruno, how in the world did you make 13 overtakes?
I do not hear them. Let me check.
We'll try and get Bruno back with us in just a second here. I know they're working in the background to get the technical stuff sorted out there, Jake. But again, I can't believe that somebody did manage to climb up that far with drivers of this caliber surrounding them.
And a lot of that would have come about from what we saw at the beginning in the mid-pack. It was a lovely, lovely position of saying, right, we're going to go all out and prove what we've got. And I believe, Joe, we have Bruno back once again.
Now we've got him with us. All right, Bruno, we want to know how in the world you managed to overtake 13 cars when you've got drivers who are incredibly fast around you.
I don't have an answer for you. I guess I was just lucky. So many crashes in front of me, and yeah, I was really lucky to avoid all of them and have really, I think, good pace. Basically, based on our practice we had all the month. So yeah, it was really tough, mate. You know how tough it is to drive in a Logitech in the field of everybody with a good gears, seeing the best gears you can imagine, and that's gonna be my excuse for the whole championship.
Well, we see you've got the nod to Kanan behind you. I know you work as his social media manager. He's a regular sim racer. Does he give you any tips or help in this?
Oh, of course, especially on ovals. So Tony is the best oval driver on our racing. He has so many techniques, but yeah, we exchange some infos for sure.
Well, I love seeing him get involved in more than just the driving side of sim racing as well. Congratulations on an impressive run up to 15th.
Thanks, guy. Thank you.
That was Bruno DeCarmo. And then I believe up next we've got Mitchell de Jong, who finished in 6th today. Mitchell, you looked a little bit stuck. How much of that was just deciding to bring it home, and how much of it was you genuinely couldn't get by the cars ahead?
Sorry. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I think we just came from being used to a package that was pretty racy with the draft, now to being, being a little bit different. So obviously the first lap was pretty eventful. Qualifying didn't go as I had hoped, but I just tried to save the tires and see if I could do something towards the end, like the last 5 laps when the tires would fall off. But we got close, but no real move kind of really came up there. So yeah, I was just trying to stay close in case they made a mistake and see what I could get. But after all that, I'm still pretty happy with 6th.
How much were you having to look out for the tires, and what did it feel like we saw 137 Fahrenheit on track?
Yeah, it's pretty rough on the tires. Yeah, I think with this track temp, it's just so hard to keep it under you no matter what. Even if you drive quite a bit off pace, it's really tricky. So Yeah, you just need to manage your braking, make sure you don't have any little slides and stuff early on in the run because that will show up later for sure. So you need to use the pace wisely and yeah, try to put together the best race.
Well, it starts off with a 6, solid points, and we'll look forward to seeing you down at Mexico City.
Thank you.
Jake?
Yeah, we are going to have some amazing running, and we can now see a look at how the championship points are going to fare after this season opener. 35 then for a win, 30 for second, 26 then in for third, and then you can see the likes 18, 17, 16, 14, 13 then as it runs on down, and qualifying, of course, scoring its own points haul as well in this championship. And the cut line then just 1 point between Dalton Zavadil and Fidel Moreira. So that gives me an understanding, Joe, of this is not just a championship you need to just drive well in. This is one where every factor is going to count, including what you do before the race even starts.
Exactly. You've got to be preparing. A lot of the drivers talk about how many hours they spend, and I do think that is going to make a big effect on how much preparation is made each and every week.
Yeah, so much work is going to go into this. They've got 2 weeks now before they get on to their next challenge. But to take a look at what happened over the course of this race, Joe, very, very quickly. Oh my goodness, we had an absolute barn burner of a first 5 minutes out there, and then it settled down into this tactical race of can we go and make the move, yes or no? Can we manage the tyres at an incredibly hot Sebring?
I think this is going to be a real lesson this race because the drivers now know, okay, survive that first lap, give each other a little bit of space. That's going to be job one.
And job one is they've got to get it done now, and they look to job 2 at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, the brothers Rodriguez, over on July 11th. That is 7 o'clock GMT. It's 3 p.m. Eastern for that. That huge incident there, I think, is the talking point of the race down in the middle of the pack. They all had to scatter and scarper to get themselves through all of that. But they will know, Joe, that as far as it goes, Hermanos Rodriguez has a number of similarities to this place.
Exactly. Very flat, not a lot of elevation change, and a mix of very fast and very slow corners. That at least gives you a good touch point when we head off there, but it's not going to be completely the same. I've seen a lot of drivers say that Hermanos Rodriguez is one of the more difficult tracks.
It very much is, and one thing we do know as far as the racing has gone here today is that many of the 32 wants to come up and prove what they've got. That guy there in the number 2, Xander Reed, on top compared to everybody else. We'll see you on the other side of this as we go from Americas to MEA with your Porsche Esports Supercup Regionals.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the Daytona 24, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR schedule, such as the Daytona 500. We have events from disciplines all across the racing world, from the Indianapolis 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events utilize iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against every driver taking part. And as every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
What a year it's been for him. With a battered and bruised car, Cooper Webster then, your 2025 champion.
Pressure locks you to the floor, waiting for an open door. The clock is ticking, make your move. Here's your signal, time to prove. Can you hear me now? 'Cause I'm shouting through the noise. Can you hear me now? It's time to make a choice. Break the chains and rush the gates. Hurry before it's too late.
Under the shadow of the lonely mountain, we set ourselves up with the Porsche Esports Supercup regionals here with the MEA region for the Middle East and for Africa. And we will start off tonight here at Fuji Speedway here in Oyama, Japan, for a circuit that has so much prowess and history attached to it. One of the most wonderful places to go out there. I'm Jake Sperry. That's going to be Joe Peak alongside with me here for this one. Now, Joe, it's Fuji. It's a circuit that has gone through many different iterations over the years. The most current update from 2007, and a track that pretty much holds itself as one that says, look, you've got amazing action and battlegrounds all year round here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the track definitely very different to how maybe those who grew up in the 80s might remember this place. It's a lot more technical now. The turns have been sharpened quite a bit. But one thing that does remain is that long front straight. I think that's going to be a point of contention in this race if anybody remains close enough to one another.
Yeah, it's the key drafting place, it's the key opportunity, and these drivers all have an opportunity to book their place in the Porsche Esports Supercup, and they do so by this format.
Welcome to the Porsche Esports Supercup, the virtual one-make series with some of the fastest drivers in the world, where every lap matters and every mistake can end your season. With all drivers in the same car, tackling the same conditions, an exciting format, a brilliant prize, and a chance to make the jump from the virtual track to the real one for a full season. There are two ways in: official Porsche National Championships and Global Open Qualifiers, where 4 race weeks will decide who rises, with the fastest drivers advancing. The Regional Championship will be comprised of races across 4 regions. Drivers go head-to-head across multiple rounds, but only the fastest move on. Drivers will compete across 5 full race weekends, but at the end, only one driver can claim the title of World Champion, along with the cash prize. From this pool of drivers, a select few will be chosen for the next stage. The talent shootout is not just another test, it is a chance to prove you belong in real-world racing. Here, every corner counts, Every decision is judged, and only the driver with the speed, composure, and potential to step into a real race car will stand out. Is that you?
They are on top as we take a look at where we are then kicking off this season for MEA, and it's going to be a wonderful challenge here where they tackle some pretty amazing circuits, Joe. Suzuka comes up July 11th, and then you've got Adelaide, Okayama and Phillip Island. It gives you the perfect blend of short circuits, long circuits, street circuits. It's got everything.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to be very versatile to thrive in this one. But more than anything, I mean, the names involved here, Fuji and Suzuka, two major well-known circuits, Adelaide, so much history there as well. And then wrapping things up at Phillip Island, that is such a tricky circuit to have the finale at.
Oh, it really is. It's such a high-speed circuit. So we take a look at your Loctite race analysis. Half an hour on the clock, a standing start to get you off of the grid, a pit window that there shouldn't be one. If you're in the pits, you're in trouble. And then, of course, the top 8 in the region move on to the World Championship. So you're looking around and saying, right, how am I going to maximize this, Joe, from a standing start?
Yeah, especially since it is a long run down to turn 1. So you definitely need to make sure that you have practiced that in this group, because you can make up so much trying to get some spots, even before you get to the braking zone here at first corner. Speaking of that, let's take a look at the track itself. And with this being just over 2.5 miles, just over 4.5 kilometers, it's not as long as we've seen with some tracks, but it is 16 turns, a lot more than it used to be. And I think more than anything, it's that last section that can make or break. It is so technical through there, and it leads on off of the final corner onto that long main straight. You really need to nail that, Jake.
You absolutely do. This track analysis brought to you by TDK in Everything Better. It is one where I think it's so unique in terms of what it brings together on the board. And I tell you what, it's going to be one of those where you say, right, I want to be going out there and showing what you can. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, and just how important racing action is going to be. No driver here in this MEA region has ever stepped foot at the Porsche Esports Supercup, Joe.
That's as a driver, I will say. There are some drivers in this regionals who have actually worked with teams that have competed. So I think there is a little bit of experience there, but yeah, it's a little bit different when you're getting behind the wheel. I think we want to see answered who will be able to thrive being thrust into such a big and important race series.
Now, it's a case of trying to keep your rivals closer because we don't have 32 in this. We have 10 trying to get into 8 spots. It's a smaller field. So my question to you, Joe, is this more aggression because there's less cars and you're going to be close to the places? Or is it less aggression because you've got more chance of making it?
I think it depends on the driver. If it's someone who thinks, you know what, I can go out and I can win each week, then yeah, maybe they'll fight pretty hard because they figure they can always come back next week and get a decent result. If it's someone towards the back, if you've got, something within those top 8, then yeah, don't look a gift horse in the mouth if you find yourself promoted up through whatever reasons. But it's definitely one that's going to change the complexion a little bit. But what about being on this big of a stage for the first time? Who will adapt to that?
I think it's down to who wants to qualify the best, who wants to put together their race, and who can manage their nerves. I think that's what we're going to be seeing here from those. It's going to have the biggest microscope on it because it comes from a region where you don't often see massive amounts of racing talent from, but it's something that you really do want to love and see. Now let's take a look, though, here around this Fuji Speedway with your lap here in full flow right now, and this was set by Avesta Gabati of making the long run towards turn number 1, and the key here is how you manage yourself on the brakes, tiptoeing in to the opening corner, driving it back off of the exit, and then saying, okay, down the hill over towards turn number 2, getting the biggest amount of speed in. It's such a closed apex through here. It's single line through, and then you've got this big, long 300 right, Joe, where you've just got to try and hold on diamond the apex.
Yes, and you really need to stay tight to the right because you can see it dumps you directly into the hairpin, which is faster than you would imagine because it's actually got a fair bit of camber through there. So you got to use that momentum very well. Then it's up through 300R, just a flat out right-hander, and the chicane, the dreaded chicane. This thing is slow and fiddly. I got to really get down through the gears, and look at how much curb you can take. You talked about it earlier. These cars can handle a lot of those sausage curbs, so you have to get aggressive on them.
Off camber, all the way up. This is the part of the circuit designed by Herman Tilke as you work on through. And new memberships, 30% off of them, and you can get on track with iRacing today. Scan the QR code or go to iracing.com/membership. Final corner, sitting there with the museum on the left-hand side, and you look to try and just drive it aggressive then for the line. A good run out to the final corner gives you a massive push along this front stretch to say that is a lap, and a lap of a 1:39.9, and that really set up a really strong showcase of what Avesta Gabati is going to be all about. But that grid, Joe, is just on the other side, and those 10 are looking at what is the best run of result that I'm going to get to book your place in. We're going to find that out in just a few moments' time, but what are you looking forward to off of the start of this race quickly?
I am looking forward to seeing some fresh faces get in and show what they can do. I always love to see new talent really start to come to the fore.
Yeah, and that new talent is here, it is ready, and it's looking to prove itself. Avesta Gabati then fastest out there, and showing then as part of the Veloce Academy just how good of a run today can be, a 1:39.9. It is then the Maniti Racing driver Patrick Kessel there in second as Mehdi El Fati starts third, and Dylan Allen goes from fourth position. Jack Johns will start this one in fifth, ahead of Werner Skoman then in sixth position. Then you've got Ruslan Hamidlin there in seventh place, ahead of Oliver Heasley, who is eighth. And two more then over the page, a 1:42.3 from Shivesh Bisoon, and no time set for Muhammad Al-Rustam, who will be looking to go from the back of the field in 10th as part of the team of NL Racing. 4 NL Racing cars in this field, and they are going to be hoping that at least 4 of them are going to be progressing out of the end of this as they all look to get themselves gridded up. 5 lots of rows, looking to try and prove that this is going to be their time, their place, their circuit, their opportunity to go out there at a level better than everybody else in the Porsche Esports Supercup. It starts here. It starts with the aggressive nature of turn number 1, and this first corner has the real sense of setting the tone for this region. How much do you want it? How much do you need it? What are you going to do and show to make sure that you have everything capable and able to go and get a championship that you want at the end of it? There are so many amazing storylines that come through the Porsche Esports Supercup, and we're so glad that you're here with us and Porsche here with iRacing. There is going to be amazing action to set. Light sequence though, about to start, ladies and gentlemen. Half an hour on the clock at the season opener here at Fuji. Let's get ourselves underway with racing action, and off we go. Gabati with a great start then. Kessel into line. Immediately following in suit is Mehdi El Fati, who moves out to the outside, try and get a big old line in towards turn number 1. Oh, wanted to abandon ship immediately. That's Dylan Allen. Correct myself, Jack Johns, who had a very, very wide line. He had a great launch, but ultimately dropping back, losing the positions. He falls behind Skoman, then into 6th place as we work then through towards that 300 right for the first time.
He was very lucky because he almost ran into his teammate. I think there may have been just a slight bit of contact when they returned to the circuit, but thankfully they all got away with it. Otherwise, clean starts, but coming down to the hairpin, a little bit of side-by-side there between Ruslan as well as Jack Johns once again. So they'll carry on the fight as we focus on the 3 of Kessel, who chases our leader.
Yeah, so this is where the top two are happy. Build your gap, Gabadi and Kessel, as they work through the hairpin section down at the bottom of the hill and start the long climb back up then to the top. Kessel second, El Fati then in third, Dylan Allen fourth, and Skoman then on the back, the number 9 car in 5th place. Working up through the off-camber, turn number 14, 15, and then getting the drive, knowing that turn 16 is the last great place on the lap to go and make it happen. And very open is the line on entry. You just have to close the door back off the exit up the hill. It's one of the uniquest corners I've ever seen from a hairpin.
It is tricky, and you can see already drivers are trying to weave a little bit to break this slipstream. We just heard earlier on about how much the draft has been reduced this season. So how much of an effect will it have? Well, apparently not enough to make it a slam dunk, even on this long, over kilometer straight down into turn 1, as it's going to remain single file through the corner. I think the other big one about that last turn, Jake, is you can't go too wide because there are markers that are watching in the sim automatically. It'll make you give time back if you go too far outside of the track limits.
Very upright seating position here for Werner Skoman, who is trying to absolutely keep himself in play. I tell you what, he looks as built as a Springboks rugby player.
He does indeed. A lot of South Africans taking part in this regionals area, as Werner is not quite close enough to Dylan in front of him to do anything here. But like I said, you can make up a lot of time through this slower section of the track. This is where you've got to be absolutely on top of it and get aggressive with the corners. But it looks like he's actually losing more to Dylan, who starts to pull away.
Yeah, and so the gap just slowly extending out then, and the margins are fine. He was close going down at the bottom of the hill, but he couldn't get the drive off of the exit. And when you're at the bottom of the hill trying to drive up the hill, it's very, very tough. There's a reason why this was the place for the Cycling Olympic Games back in 2021. It's why they ran here and why it was such an important finish as we go on board with Patrick Kessel here in 2nd position. And it was a climbers race back then, which was won in the women's race by Annemiek van Vleuten and in the men's race by Richard Carapaz.
Right now, Gabadi is looking like he might be the one to win in this race if he can hold on, but Kessel looking strong through the first corner. He could have himself an opportunity if he just keeps with it here, because he's been remaining at least within touch. I don't think he's within attacking distance yet. He's going to have to get a little bit closer than that, but he is forcing the number 1 car to have to kind of watch his mirrors.
Yeah, certainly looking around. There has been a change of position for third. Mehdi El Fati has lost the place to Dylan Allen, which puts 2 South Africans now 2nd and 3rd. Our focus is back here for 6th, 7th and 8th. Jack Johns holding off Ruslan Hamidlin there, and Mohammed Al-Rustam, who has moved up to 8th place, getting by Oliver Heasley and Shivesh Bassoon. Outside line it's going to be down at the bottom of the hill, looking for the run. Oh, and then a door just slammed shut between the 2 NL teammates there. Hamiludin is not going to be very happy at that, and just has to measure this race now here at 5 minutes through, and does not want to be running into the side of anybody in front. Jack Johns, though, will have to be a little bit careful that he doesn't see that door open for opportunities to slip down the inside.
Yeah, and these NL Racing teammates certainly need to watch out, because they're all scoring points, good points, as they sit right now. They're in those coveted top 8 spots. This is on board with Jack Johns, looking backwards. So, yeah, I think, yes, fight it out and try to get the position you want, but don't throw away a good opportunity. They've got a good gap over Heasley and Bassoon.
Very much do, and they have that right now at 3.4 seconds. Johns tipping it through Daiichi corner, which means first corner out there in Japanese, as they work themselves then over to turn 2. And now Johns maybe missing the apex slightly, gives a great chance now for Hamidlin to go and make that pass back, but you're immediately down the hill, back out the other side, and there is a rear spoiler on it for a reason. Look at that, as a slingshot up there, and there's contact almost, just the open steering it. Now forcing 3 wide teammates come together. It's Al Rustam who just jumps on it a little bit too eager down to the inside, and ultimately that will mean now that Hamilton holds the position. Johns is done somehow enough to keep himself in line.
Well, Rustam had to absolutely start the wheel to catch that one. Did a good job keeping it from slamming into the wall because it was all sorts of sideways off the corner. In fact, he's already made up the time to those two. Remember what I said earlier? They've lost quite a bit to Oliver Heasley behind him. We're starting to see glimpses of him in the background of our shots. So they can't keep this up. I think they've got to get this sorted out soon.
Yeah, they've got to get onto a consensus. Each and every one of them has a spotter in their ears as well. They're the only team that has a spotter. Jack Johns has Liam Connery helping out. Kamilidin has Leonard Pulvagel helping out. And Mohammed Al Rustam has Robin Schulze helping out in the ears. Back in 9th position, Heasley then and Bassoon are probably looking at this going, yeah, let them battle, let them continue. We'll certainly take advantage of that as they go. They're not, they're just running in tandem at the moment. Lovely livery for Oliver Heasley, by the way. That last lap took 0.4 of a second.
That's a pretty big gap, and we still have a lot of racing left to go. Yeah, I agree. That number 6 looks fantastic as he continues to try and stay ahead of Bassoon, who's been awful close to him for this race. I guess that's the other side of this, is those 3 in front might be battling, but if these 2 start doing likewise, then they're not going to make up that ground that they did that last lap.
No, and it will be different as Kessel right to the back of Gabati and trying to work away to move on forward. It's not quite there at the time being. Up over the crest then through turn 13 to 14 and 15 here, where you again try and work the rise here, just running up to the rear and saying, look, I want to try and find that angle and that pivot, working around on a circuit here today that is running at 35 degrees Celsius. So if you want to put it here, Joe, on the dog walking to egg frying scale, I would put that somewhere in it's just about okay for a dog.
Yeah, I'd put some booties on it, just to be kind to your pupper. But we got a nice little side-by-side battle. This is for 4th. Skuman versus El Fadi. El Fadi has Werner has the inside, actually, on this one. Coming down to Daichi, who's going to try and outbreak him. And if he can just get it done, as long as there's not an over and under, he's got it. Yep, he is now up to 4th with that one.
Yeah, that's a lovely pass that's got it sorted over Mehdi El Fati, and El Fati will realise I'm starting to drop back down, and I might need a little bit of help there, the man from Marrakesh, on how to go and get to the next level and try and jump up. What he knows as well, as far as he's gone, last 4 years, Joe, he's actually been representing R8G Esports, the esports team of Romain Grosjean.
Oh, that is fantastic. As we were looking for a brief moment at the number 10 of Al Rustam, he actually started at the back of the field, currently sitting in 7th. So he's actually our biggest mover, just behind, or excuse me, ahead of them, rather I should say, El Fati, who we ride on board with now, trying to see if he can get back that spot from Werner. Let's see how he is out of these final few corners, because they are so tough. It's very blind as well. It's hard to see where your turn-in points are, where that apex is, especially on this last one, because there's not much in the way of reference points, and then you're trying to turn in, get the throttle down, and run it as wide as you can without getting that slowdown penalty. But unfortunately for Mehdi, I think Werner had the much better run. He looks farther away than he was just a few moments ago.
Yeah, definitely a big difference. And Mehdi El Fati, the former sporting director of R8G Esports, chief of vehicle dynamics at the moment. Race lead battle, though. We're going to go to that, though, at this stage. Let's not reminisce in the past. Let's go to the present. Maniti then and Patrick Kessel looking for the lead. Avesta Gabari on the outside, looking to hold the position through turn 3. Now at 300 right, holds the inside line and is going to commit that on a tightrope. He's got to extend out wide for the fear that he is going to lose that place place. He gives only a lane to the inside, and Kessel can't get close enough to go and jump for it. Again, running wide goes Avesta Kabaddi, who knows what it takes to go and be quick. And his skill actually in sim racing, Joe, is he's one of the best out there when it comes to close quarters. This is bread and butter, but this is Patrick Kessel's jam. And he says, this is my sandwich, as he gets the move.
Yeah, Kessel was on a run, and he was not letting anybody tell him no. Gabati has to give it up, but he's still with him. There we can see the both of them at the bottom as they react to it, both looking relatively calm in this situation. But again, the make or break coming out of turn 16. I think Avesta, if he can just stay within that slipstream, he's got a good shot. Let's see what the difference is between them. The one car's there or thereabouts. I would not anticipate him being able to make a dive, though, from what we've seen so far.
Well, it's a case of what does top speed difference look like on the straights. They're already hitting over 250 kilometers an hour. Gabati over 265, 270. He's going to get a run, but ultimately, what's the difference at the point they hit the brakes? And there's not going to be a move offered then as they dive through. I looked around, it was 270 for Avesta Gabati. Patrick Kessel, by comparison, hit 268 on the straight. So that is, we're talking minuscule, 2 kilometers an hour in the toe.
So clearly not nearly as important on these tracks with the huge long straights as they once again come down into the hairpin. You can see this is where things started to change for Avesta. He's trying to see if he could figure out how to turn things around on him, but it's just not working. So we're almost halfway through this race. He still has time to try and fight back, but he's really going to have to be observant as the NL drivers are still going at it. Now, to their credit, they've not lost the 6th, 7th, and 8th positions, and they're still not any close to being passed by P9. So I'd say they're just having fun out here.
I'd say they're having a very nice time figuring it out between themselves. Kamidlin then on the back in 8th place. In 7th, Mohammed Al-Rustam then, and in that 6th position, Jack Johns holding ground and actually starting to break away to the tune of 7/10 of a second now. So that will put Al-Rustam more under pressure, and they've managed to stave the gap here to Oliver Heasley. Gained 3/10 on that last time. There's a look at Mohammed Al-Rustam then looking to try and hold in the toe. Look at that, a serpentine on the main straight.
A bit of a dragon, honestly. And he did make a little bit of contact, we should point out, just before we turned our attention over to here. That was down in the hairpin. So Mohammed could have a tiny little bit of damage on the nose. That will make life even harder on these long straightaways unless he gets opportunities like that. Jack just went way too deep. You can see that nearly cost him the position.
Well, if you put a line like that down where you miss the apex, you're going to be in a world of hurt for the next couple of corners. And now you see Al-Rustam using the up and unders here, trying to get a big wide line. He can't open it up too much, otherwise he's going to be under threat from Khamidilin. Then just behind, Ruslan getting a good run, and he's going to go to the outside and push it here for a big wide run. But again, he's just cut off there by Mohammed Al-Rustam, more than enough to get things sorted out in that battle. Some lovely stuff out there from a man who has been battling so well then in the middle of this 3-car train. Oh, and he's again going to get into the back down at the hairpin.
Got to watch out for that. If he winds up turning his teammate, things are going to go sour very, very fast. And he, again, hits him, but he's the one that spins instead of his teammate. And now here comes Oliver Heasley, and suddenly he's got a very different challenge on his hands.
Well, remember, the top 8 qualified themselves through to the Porsche Esports Supercup. And right now, we're talking bubble then for Al-Rustam. It would put him on the back foot. If he falls behind, then Oliver Heasley, as you can see, with your Loctite race analysis on the right-hand side of screen. But the key here is that if Heasley wants to get this pass easily, he's going to have to turn up the wick and the cadence to give Mohammed Al-Rustam something to think about.
Good recovery from the 10 for now. Puts himself out of reach from Oliver. So doesn't have to worry about anything down into turn 1, at least this time. Gets it right down to the apex. Nice and tidy. Good refocus here after what was a bit of an embarrassing mistake on his part. And that did separate all three of the NL drivers. So all the fun that we were having may have dissipated for the time being.
So the gaps open up slightly, and now they're going to have to work hard. Shivesh Bassoon as well on this one at the bottom, the foot of the table in 10th place. He's only 20 seconds off of the race lead, but he's keeping himself honest and driving a really clean race. And I think that's something really commendable at the moment, as that's slightly wide going through the left-hand hairpin, famed, of course, for James Hunt's pass to win the 1976 championship there at that section of road. But I would be looking around at this and saying, aside from the incidents that we've seen with Al Rustam, this has been a very clean, very effective race group, and they've known that this is not going to be one where it's elbows out as much.
Let's take another look at what put this 10 back this far, and we saw this from him repeatedly. I think he was trying to stay as close as he could to try and get an opportunity to pass. The problem is he was just getting too ambitious, although looking at that first one, he kind of caught him at a very strange place. I almost wonder if there was a bit of a square off from Johns. This was where the contact happened that turned him. And yeah, again, that was on corner entry. So I'm going to take a stab that I think the 4-car of Jack Johns was just backing up his entries to focus on the corner exits, and Muhammad was almost taking the reverse, and them having that contradiction is what caused them to tangle.
At what point in a moment like that, Joe, do you look at that incident and go, okay, I need to now dial back and change my driving style? Because that looked to me like, you know, Mohammed Al Rustam has one way of taking the corner and no other way of taking the corner.
I think the second you make almost the contact earlier on is when you have to make that introspection. So, yeah, I think Mohammed maybe missed a little bit of a trick there. Probably should have adjusted a little bit earlier on. We wouldn't be in this spot now. But it's always easy in hindsight, and especially when you're up here in the booth giving those perspectives on it. In the meantime, do like seeing this fight carry on between 9th and 10th. They've lost touch with Mohammed, but Oliver and Shivesh are giving us a little bit of a show, even if it's only for 9th.
But it is an important show between them, because this is the difference between I've got points or I've got less points to work with. There's Oliver Heasley there on the left-hand side. Very nice wire there going across his screen, showing that he's running a wired headset. Shivesh Bassoon, lights off out there at the moment, understanding I need as much concentration on the road in front of me as possible, Joe.
Concentration is so valuable in this level of racing, being able to really block it all out, focus on what you're doing, and hit your marks. 2 South Africans try and decide this one, but I don't think that Shivesh is going to be able to do much coming down into turn 1 at this stage. And here we go again. Johns and Hamilton are finding themselves still battling with one another, even if they've lost one of their teammates. But for now, Johns will hold the upper hand, and he's kind of been in this spot all race long, holding off all of his, not rivals, but his cohorts.
Yeah, he's been trying to do everything that he can, and in terms of his iRacing career, he's someone who actually prefers something a little bit slower than this Porsche. He's normally out there running in the VW Jetta. Then 6 times he's taken the result then in that category on iRacing, but he understands how critical it is to just understand this race, just hit his marks, defensive line taken as we go through, and take a little bit of another look then forward. So this is with Jack Johns at this moment, so he'll turn and keep his eyes focused forward. We're taking a look from behind on board with Ruslan Hamidulin and in the number 7 car. But I would be saying, right, Ruslan wants himself to jump up, do everything he can, and for Ruslan, he will be turning around. What does he do sometimes on his time off then from sim racing, Joe? Stunt driving work.
I mean, car control is a handy thing to have, especially when things start to go awry. We've already seen these 3 get into those situations, so I'm sure Ruslan is happy that he's got that in his back pocket. Question is, can he put it in the front pocket here for a potential 6th place, as he's going to force Jack Johns down to the inside to defend? into the first corner and cut back beautifully. Now, the downside is he's going to be the outside running up to turn 3. This is not the ideal place to be in. There's going to have to be trust between these teammates. He's going to give him a little bit too much space, and Jack will move back ahead of him.
Jack just placing the car where he needs to. That crossover, Joe. I don't care that the move's not been made. That was a move that butters my bread. Here comes another one. Straight down to the inside. Ruslan Khamidlin with a lovely pass to move up to 6. Jack Johns needs to get back on the power down the hill here to the lowest section of this circuit, which is over at the hairpin. Does he have a lane and angle to go diving for it? He tried, but he's not quite there.
Whew, things got close once again. This team really is not shy about getting right up next to one another, that's for sure. But Ruslan has done what none of the others have been able to do so far and finally passed Jack in this race. So credit to him. That's Mohammed actually in the background, I just realized. So he'd certainly use some of that back and forth to regain a little bit of his ground.
0.8 of a second on that last lap for Mohammed Al-Rustam to go and chase down Jack Johns and Ruslan Khamidlin. Then in this group, lead gap still 0.6 of a second is worth noting here with 8 minutes to go in the race, but we're on board here with Jack Johns in the number 4, 6th gear, looking to try and run it down through the gears to get it stopped under braking. And really you have to engage very, very aggressively. You go from max speed to slow it down to less than 100 kilometers an hour, and then you've got to be back on the power again. We talk about tracks being momentum based. This one, I think, is very, very flowy as far as racetracks go.
Now, we haven't given a lot of love to one of our NL drivers. That's Dylan Allen, and he deserves it because he's moved himself up into a podium position. We covered it earlier in the race, but since then, he's taken off from Schoon by almost 4 seconds. Unfortunately, he's a ways off of the battle for the lead, so I don't think he's going to be bothering that anytime soon. Regardless, got to give a nod to the number 2 because much like we saw in the Americas race, I think this is going to be a nice, quiet drive to a podium finish.
Very much is. Just 17 years of age, Dylan Allen, and he's proving that he has got all of the tools of the trade to go out there and be really, really quick. Plays rugby in his spare time out there, big Springboks fan, so he's looking out there improving. We talk about how youthful some sim racers are and how incredible they are. I remember jumping into sim racing when Sebastian Joe, for example, Joe, was just 14 years of age and he was up at the top level of sim racing already. So sim racing is all about finding talent, and it seems to me like we find sim racing talent earlier and earlier these days.
I think it's fantastic that these drivers have been able to show what they can do. And that's one thing that a lot of the drivers have mentioned, especially here in the MEA region, is that it's a leveling of the playing field. There's no more of the cost that will keep people out. If you can get kind of the bare minimum out there with a wheel and pedal set, sometimes even some drivers manage it with a gamepad controller, then you can show what you can do in this sim. So yeah, I love seeing what opportunities it puts up. And as we said a little bit earlier, or saw a little bit earlier in the video, this is a chance to get into a real race car as well.
Yes, and that's the key. Everyone wants to go out there and prove that they are Porsche material, and this is what we're seeing from these top 2. Patrick Kessel, Avesta Gabadi working through up into the final corner, climbing and trying to drive away. That's a very heavy amount of work over those anti-cut curves on the outside by Avesta Gabadi. Patrick Kessel doesn't really look too bothered behind. He's happy with where he is. He's holding his ground there in the Maniti Racing number 3. He looks over at Avesta Gabadi's Veloce Academy machine saying, look, I want to try and hold my ground, but it realizes here they've just seen the time tick under 5 minutes, which if you're looking around, it's go time at the moment. It's almost like in a game of rugby, it's just hit 80 minutes and you realise you play until you see the ball go to touch.
And we talk about real-world racing. How about Kessel and the different type? semi-professional on the sailing side as well. That's definitely not one that I've come across so far in my sim racing commentary, but making that adaptation to the four wheels quite well, obviously. But after taking the lead away from Avesta, I think that #1 car seems very eager to get this spot back. I think all it's going to take is a little mistake from the 3 with how close that Gabati is remaining. He's doing everything right here to just lay that pressure on, wait for the right moment.
Yeah, he's really doing a great job. Now, Joe, sidebar, what is the weirdest pipeline you've ever seen out there from one sport to another sport in the world of racing?
I have seen a cheerleader become a racer, and she actually did very, very well because it is a very athletic sport, cheerleading. So that would probably top my list.
I've had world pro table tennis player turned drifter, basically, out there, and that was absolutely incredible to see. And that was a world #2, a former #2 table tennis player. But here comes Avesta Gabati, now looking for this race lead, tipping it over, 3:16 left on the clock. What? Almost contact. That could have been everything there. Kessel fighting back under brakes. This is where they're now going to start showing the teeth right now, and Kessel holds his ground over Avesta Gabati.
That was more than almost. That was rubbing his racing right there as they came together down the main straight. It's super high speeds. We were talking about 270 kilometers per hour. You don't want to tangle because that's pretty much lights out if the two of you go spinning off, and then suddenly Dylan is handed a win.
You don't want that. You don't want to hand a surefire victory, maximum points away. And so it's critical that you just hit your marks out there as we go. Let's take a little look then on how that all came about on the main straight. You've got the battle on the top, and they were just fighting for the line. Gabati looked to the inside, moved to the outside, and then just didn't want to move over. Kessel was trying to push him over to the left-hand side. Gabati doesn't move for nobody.
You got to be careful. And a secondary contact as well. We had missed that down through turn 1. Now, in real racing, you can get away with that a little bit easier because there's more spatial awareness. In sim racing, it's so much harder to race that close because you just don't necessarily always have the ability to tell how close that car is. And moreover, there's always the threat of the internet connection causing an incident that shouldn't have happened. So you have to give maybe a little bit more wiggle room than that.
Keep an eye on that clock. It's going to be very close as they come to the line. They cross with 1:38. Barney is waving the white flag out for the pair of them. Now shaking across. Patrick Kessel trying everything to defend. Gabati goes to the outside to try and make this move through Daiichi corner. Down the hill, needing the run to turn 3. And this is where they're now going to start thinking about, okay, the great place is gone. Now we're going to have to be a little bit more inventive through the left of 3 then, and over through this long, sweeping right that now sets themselves up. 300 of them on the run right, and over to the next left-hander. Kessel pulling a car length then in towards the left, trying to extend out of the exit and use that ability as much as possible to just run away here on this final lap, dropping down the hill and knowing, right, this is going to be a difference maker. Gabati gets right up to the light. He could have them flashing in his face if he wanted to at that point. Back up the crest again, and the gap extends once more to an agonizing 1 car length. Patrick Kessel's just got to hit his marks. This is where, if you're not careful, the unicorns turn back to horses. But at the moment, he is roaming free at the front of this field. He knows that he's had to make that move. He's had to stave off the challenge. Gabati tries to drive in deep and go and get that run, but I don't think he has enough to say that is going to be where it's needed to be, in the back pocket, running that rush over towards the line, and that is going to be huge. Patrick Kessel crosses and looks like he gets it done with some absolute ace driving here at this Fuji Speedway, Joe.
0.2 of a second between them as they cross. That's probably a little closer than he would have wanted, but he managed it. And then again, Dylan Allen made that pass early and then just ran away with a smooth cruise up into that 3rd spot. Nice podium.
It's an incredible podium and one that he'll be very happy about because this is his Mobile 1 winning moment. Joe, when you fight 1 versus 1, it's about who wants it more and who can play that perfectly. Avesta Gabadi is no slouch out there. You don't join Veloce if you're not, but that was simply put for Patrick Kessel. How do I posture the car in the right place so nobody makes the move by me? 2 pieces of light contact there was fair racing.
I'm glad that they managed to get away with that. A great job by both of them. Our Trelux move of the race in the meantime was the one that got the lead for Patrick Kessel about halfway through the run. Had that slipstream down the main straight. Avesta knew early, this is bad news. But then coming down around the outside, the number 3 managed to hold his speed and then cut back and try and take it once again. Never give up, never surrender, and that allowed him to slice through that turn 3 section, carry it on a little bit longer, and finally get the job done down through the hairpin. I mean, look at that. Took about 3 stabs for him to finally make it stick, but once it did, he finally was able to hold on and not give way.
It was a case of, and at the 4th attempt, he needed to go down the hill to go and manage to find that pass, and it really is a showcase of where are you going to keep prodding and poking, and finally he found the weak point there down at the hairpin. Lovely stuff there from Patrick Kessel, and a well-deserved winner here today with your Trelux move of the race. Your confirmation of result then, officially we didn't actually run 30 minutes, we ran 29 minutes, 59 seconds and 8.5 tenths out there. It was too close to 30 minutes, so Barney threw the flag and he wins by 2 tenths in the end over Avesta Gabadi, with Dylan Allen, your final driver, on the podium. Werner Skoman ends up 4th ahead of Mehdi El Fati, who takes some good points, ahead then of Ruslan Hamidulin and Jack Johns there in 7th. Mohamed Al Rustam will take 8th place overall, with Oliver Heasley 9th and Shivesh Bassoon in 10th. Al Rustam having a spin in that race and was still able to recover the time and the placement out there. Joe, I tell you what, we've had some very aggressive racing, and I believe you've got Patrick Kessel with you.
Yep, we have our winner. Patrick took almost a full lap to get that pass done. Did you expect it would take that much to finally make the pass stick?
I mean, to be honest, I thought he wouldn't really fight it, but I think I see now that he was teammates with P3, so now it doesn't surprise me that much. But no, I didn't expect it would take that long, and I had the pace advantage, but yeah, so I just went for it at one point.
We asked the question on the pre-race show, with fewer drivers than some of the other regions competing in this one, will it mean more or less aggression? Based on what you saw today, what are you expecting? Are you expecting to have to fight harder or less?
Probably a bit less. I mean, if it's still, I don't know if we'll still have 8 people going through, but if it is, you don't really need to do that much. So I imagine when it comes to the last 2 rounds, it'll be pretty much everyone just sitting behind each other until the end of the race.
Well, we hope we get a little bit more of a show than that. How are you feeling heading off to the next round with Suzuka, another very technical Japanese circuit?
I mean, pretty good. I mean, I lacked a bit of pace in the globals in the top split, but again, I didn't really have the time to practice for this race, and I do for next one, so yeah, it should go a bit better.
Well, just a fantastic job, impressive pass, and congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
That was Patrick Kessel, our winner. And then behind him, we have Avesta Gabadi. Avesta, we would like to get the opposite perspective on that pass. You defended hard. It didn't work out, and you didn't hold him off. But, I mean, it looked like you had quite a few tricks up your sleeve to prevent him from overtaking. Oh, might not have Avesta with us. Looks like he's taking care of social media for a second. Avesta, do you have a copy? All right, we'll check back in with him in just a little bit. So, interesting perspective there, Jake, that Kessel thinks it's going to be a little less competitive. I don't know how much I believe that, because I think when the pressure's off, you can take more risks.
I think you can, and I think that we saw over the course of the race that we had that risk-taking is something that affords you a luxury. The best drivers in the world can risk-take when everything's on the line. Here in this position, you're almost risk-free in terms of, I can go for a move, I can't go for a move. The only thing you don't want to do is wreck the car. So I think you can be a little bit more liberal with the way that you can go out there and attack. You don't want to be there and strung up. And I think that these drivers will have the freedom to go and hone their racecraft over these 5 races, Joe. But I wonder if you agree with me in the sense that you get to that next stage of the race, it's going to be even tougher when they realise, oh, we get to the Porsche Esports Supercup and we've got to have to try and give it everything I've got.
Yeah, like you said, you've got to sharpen yourself. I think we actually have our third place finisher ready to chat with us. So why don't we see if we can get a hold of Dylan Allen now and talk to him about his race. Another driver that had to make a move to get up to that podium spot. Dylan, once you were up into that P3, was it mostly smooth sailing? Was it just kind of cruise to the finish, or was it harder than that?
I'd say at the end of the day, the pace we're trying to keep is quite difficult. Trying to stay clean as well. But I think I had a little bit of pressure from Werner, Mehdi behind, to try and keep my lap times up. So they did push me to try and do as quick as I can. But front 2 sailed away quite a bit.
NO Racing is a pretty big force in this group. How much do you guys work together, and how much information do you guys share to find speed?
I mean, we were practicing every single night leading up to the race for the last 2 weeks. We had setups work together, sharing telemetry. We all have engineers that work together. As a team, we've worked together really strongly up to the race, and I think it really helped a lot of us out tonight.
And before we came to your interview, Jake and I were kind of wondering what the feelings are like heading towards the Porsche Esports Super Cup. If some of you managed to make it in, what are the emotions? What's the approach, knowing that there's going to be some huge competition up there?
I think it's just do as best as we can, right? So this is the biggest competition I've been a part of, at least myself. So I think the general consensus on the team is do what you can, have the best races you can, and enjoy it.
Well, we've been enjoying it. I hope you continue to. Congratulations on a podium.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
That was Dylan Allen finishing P3. And we'll give one more shot at Avesta Gabati. Avesta, do you have a copy?
Yep.
There we go. Excellent. Congratulations on second. But man, you fought hard to try and hold on to that lead to Patrick. I mean, were there any tricks left in your bag to try and prevent him from taking it?
Yeah, first of all, GG's to Patrick and Dylan. Yeah, I tried to, but I don't know. I think I was lacking a bit, just a notch of pace just to get past him, because I tried a couple of times, but he defended quite well. I tried different lines, pushing in different corners and all, but he defended really well. And yeah, I think he was too experienced in defending.
Well, a good driver is always taking notes and always learning. Do you feel like you've been sharpened by this fight, and you're going to come back and retake a win next round?
Oh, that'll be splendid, I guess. I mean, yeah, we all raced to win, so I learned definitely quite a lot of stuff. Also, you can say I'm quite new to iRacing, so definitely a big step forward, and in setups, in understanding the car and everything. So I'm just looking forward, and yeah, let's see what next round can bring to us.
Well, speaking of that next round, and with you being new to iRacing, how much experience do you have with Suzuka, and do you see that going well? Do you feel like you could come in strong there?
I practice for the same tracks, the same amount, so there's no difference. I'll give 100% of whatever I have left in the tank. So at least Suzuka, I know it because it's in the calendar of the F1 esports of the F1, just basically league and game, because I come from F1. So it's a track that I've driven a lot more, and I think I'll be more fast there. But again, I think my pace everywhere will be the same because I practice the same amount for, and I give everything I got basically.
That's all you can ask for. Again, great job on a P2 today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Zvezda Gabati, our second place finisher, Jake.
Yeah, and with that, he will be second in the championship by just one over Patrick Kessel, but knows that there is already 20 points in the back pocket to Mohammed Al-Rustam and Oliver Heasley there in 9th place. So the bubble margin still one, but a long way to go with 4 rounds of racing still to put into play. A chance really to say that the practice level has got to be what we look at for Heasley and Bassoon, who didn't really put a foot wrong. They've just got to, Joe, find a little extra morsel more to get them to that next level. And some circuits suit and some circuits don't, which I think is going to be really key for where they turn up to next time.
Yeah, it's time to get out the data, as Joey Atterbury likes to say. Time to look at the squiggly lines, figure out where you can find speed. And I'm sure they're going to be doing lots of that when we get to Suzuka July 11th for race number 2. An extremely technical track. It's always called a driver's circuit. And I think it is going to separate the quick from the super fast.
It separates wheat and chaff, Suzuka, and you can catch that 8 p.m. GMT with us here on iRacing and here with Porsche in the Porsche Esports Supercup Regionals. As far as where we are setting ourselves up then, because we've got one lot of groups done with Americas and Middle East. Next time out, Joe, in just 7 days' time, we let Europe and APAC go out and battle. Imola for Europe and back to Fuji for Asia Pacific.
Yeah, looking forward to those two groups. Europe, obviously, with an impressive amount of talent there. And then the Asia-Pacific region, you can't discount them. There's so many fast sim racers that are coming from the eastern side of the globe.
What an incredible battle we have seen at the top here today of Middle East and Africa in the Porsche Esports Supercup Regionals. This was all about who could set themselves on ceremony and start their season off the right way. It was a battle of all battles to kick things off, and critically, it's Kessel who comes out the best as he staves off the charge of Ave Bagabadi.